AITA for refusing to sell my dad's house. When my dad passed away last year, everything in our home shifted. My stepmom, Marlene, changed almost overnight. At first, she acted like she wanted to keep the family close. She'd cook dinners, invite my younger brother, Evan, to watch movies with her, and even asked me to help sort through dad's old things. I thought maybe, in her own way, she was grieving too. But as the months went by, things started to feel strange. Marlene began spending most evenings out. She'd come home late with bags from expensive stores, perfume lingering on her clothes. Evan and I would sit at the kitchen table waiting for her, only to eat leftovers alone. One afternoon, while walking home from Evan's school, I noticed a bright for sale sign hammered into our front yard. I froze on the sidewalk. My chest tightened. Nobody had mentioned selling the house. When I walked inside, Marlene was standing in the hallway in a silky robe, sipping coffee like nothing was out of the ordinary. I asked, "What's going on with the sign outside?" She smiled faintly and said, "The market is great right now. It's the perfect time to move forward." Move forward where? I asked, my voice shaking. She waved her hand like it wasn't important. "We'll figure that out. Don't worry about the details." But I did worry. This wasn't just any house. It was the only place Evan and I had left of Dad. I remembered Dad telling me that we would always have this home, no matter what. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. That night, I dug through the storage closet where Dad used to keep important papers. After a long search, I found a folder tucked inside an old shoebox. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a trust document dated 2019, clearly naming the house for Evan and me. It even had a condition written in plain words. The house could not be sold while either of us lived here or until Evan turned 21. I couldn't believe it. Dad had thought of us. He had made sure we'd be safe. The next morning, I emailed Dad's former attorney. He replied within hours, "Do not move out. The house is yours and your brother's under the trust. I'll schedule a meeting." His words were steady, but they lit a fire in me. When I confronted Marlene, she crossed her arms and said, "That trust is old. There's a newer version." I asked to see it. She refused. Instead, she brought a realtor by that weekend. They walked through the living room, talking about staging and open houses. When the realtor tried to take photos, I stepped in front of the camera and said calmly, "This house belongs to Evan and me under Dad's trust. You're not authorized to list it." The realtor left, looking uneasy. Marlene glared at me. That night, she sent me a long message, saying I was being ungrateful, that she was doing me a favor by starting fresh. She ended it with, "You'll regret standing in my way." Evan overheard everything. He hasn't been sleeping well since. I caught him stuffing his sketchbooks into his backpack, whispering that he didn't want anyone touching his drawings if strangers came to stage the house. It broke my heart. And then came the final straw. Marlene threw a moving on barbecue in the backyard. She toasted to new beginnings, laughing with her friends. I slipped inside, and that's when I noticed the hallway wall where Dad had measured our height since we were kids. The pencil marks were gone, sanded smooth. The dust still lay on the floorboards. I stood there staring, my chest tight, feeling like Dad's memory was being erased in front of me. But that wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. After the barbecue, Marlene started changing her tactics. Instead of yelling, she began acting sweet in front of Evan. She'd offer him little gifts, video games, pizza nights, and then whisper things like, "Don't you think it would be fun to live somewhere new? With a bigger room? Maybe even a pool?" Evan would nod politely, but later he'd crawl into my room and whisper that he didn't want to move. I tried not to show how shaken I was, but every night my chest tightened with worry. A few days later, Marlene showed up with a man I had never seen before. He wore a suit and carried a folder. She introduced him as a consultant. He didn't look at me. He just walked around the house, peeking into rooms, jotting notes. When I asked what he was doing, Marlene cut me off. "He's helping me handle the transition." I stood firm. "This house isn't transitioning anywhere. Dad left it to us." The man glanced at me, but said nothing. He left quickly, and I heard Marlene mutter under her breath, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." The following week, Marlene upped the pressure. She stopped cooking, stopped helping Evan with anything. It was like she wanted me to break under the weight of taking care of him. I found myself doing everything: cooking, laundry, homework help, while she sat in her room or went out with her friends. One night, Evan looked at me across the dinner table and said quietly, "Do you think Dad would be mad if we lost the house?" I almost broke down right there. I told him firmly, "Dad trusted us. He wanted us to stay here. That's not going to change." But inside, I wasn't so sure. Then came the hardest blow yet. One evening, my phone buzzed. It was an email from Marlene. Attached was a typed notice with the subject line, "Move-out arrangements." In it, she wrote that we should prepare to vacate within 30 days because the house would soon be under contract. I forwarded the email to Dad's attorney immediately. He called me the next morning and said, "Ignore it. It has no legal standing. She's bluffing. Do not leave the house under any circumstance." That should have made me feel stronger, but the tension inside the house kept growing. Marlene barely spoke to me except through cold emails or texts, even though we lived under the same roof. At the same time, she was overly sweet to Evan, constantly trying to turn him against me. The worst was when she told him, "Your sister is trying to trap you here. Don't you want to see more of the world? She's just afraid to let go." Evan came running into my room that night, tears streaming down his face. "I don't want to choose between you and her. Why is she making me?" I hugged him tight and promised he wouldn't have to choose. The breaking point came when Marlene actually invited another realtor over while Evan and I were both home. They walked through the house with measuring tape, speaking in low voices as though I didn't exist. I followed them from room to room, repeating over and over, "You have no authority to sell this house." Finally, the realtor put her clipboard down and said, "Look, I can't move forward without everyone's agreement. This is messy." She left, and Marlene slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. "You've ruined everything," she hissed at me. "You think you're protecting him, but you're just clinging to the past. And when this all falls apart, it will be on you." That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat at the kitchen table with the trust papers spread out in front of me, Dad's handwriting scrawled in the margins. Evan padded into the kitchen in his pajamas and whispered, "Don't let her take it, please." I promised him I wouldn't, and deep down, I knew I couldn't let Dad down either. After posting here, I decided to keep pushing forward. I attended the meeting with Dad's attorney, Mr. Lang. He confirmed the trust was still valid. He said Marlene could not legally sell the house, no matter what she claimed. Hearing those words made me feel lighter, like I wasn't crazy for standing my ground. But things at home have only gotten harder. Marlene has doubled down. Last week, she sent me a long email saying she had spoken with professionals who advised her that the trust could be set aside. She didn't share any proof, just vague threats about court battles and inevitable outcomes. I printed the email out and shoved it into the growing binder of evidence I've been keeping. Every time I add another page, I feel the weight of Dad's trust pressing on me. It's like he's reminding me, don't give up. That same evening, I got a call from Aunt Rose, my dad's sister. She told me she had kept old emails from Dad, where he wrote about wanting her to act as backup trustee in case Marlene ever tried to shake things up. Aunt Rose said she was ready to step in if I needed her. Her voice cracked when she told me, "Your dad trusted you to protect Evan. Don't forget that." I cried after that call, not just from relief, but from realizing Dad really had thought of everything. He must have known there was a chance Marlene would try to bulldoze us. The next day, something unexpected happened. Evan's school counselor called me. Apparently, Evan had been crying in class and told her he was afraid of losing his room. She asked me to come in. Sitting across from the counselor, I explained everything. Marlene, the trust, the pressure. The counselor looked stunned, then angry. She said Evan's stability was paramount, and she offered to write a formal statement that Evan's living situation must be protected. She even connected me with a child advocate who could step in if things escalated. That night, when I came home, Marlene was in the kitchen pouring herself a glass of wine. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Dragging outsiders into this? Do you think making me the villain will save you?" I didn't even answer. I just went to my room. But later that night, Evan came into my room holding his phone. His face was pale. He showed me a text from Marlene that said, "Don't worry. Once we move, you'll have a bigger room. Just stay quiet until then. Don't tell your sister everything. She doesn't understand." Seeing that message made my stomach twist. She was trying to manipulate him behind my back, planting seeds to make him doubt me. I screenshotted everything, her email, her text, the trust documents, and sent them to Mr. Lang. He replied quickly, "Good work. Don't confront her directly anymore. Let me handle communication from this point." I thought that might cool things down, but instead Marlene escalated. 2 nights later, she brought another realtor to the house, even though Mr. Lang had already warned her. I heard voices in the foyer, came out of my room, and saw the woman setting down a tripod camera. I walked straight into the shot, arms crossed. "This property cannot be sold," I said flatly. "You are trespassing." The realtor froze. Marlene's face went red. She hissed, "You're embarrassing me in my own home." I shot back, "It's not your home. It's mine and Evan's." For the first time, Marlene lost her cool in front of a stranger. She screamed, "I built this life. I made sacrifices for this family, and I will not be treated like some guest in a house I paid for." The realtor quietly packed up and left. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. That night, Marlene banged on my bedroom door and yelled, "You're poisoning this family. If your father could see you now, he'd be ashamed." That cut deep. But then Evan opened his door and yelled back, "Dad would be ashamed of you." His voice cracked, but it was the bravest thing I've ever seen him do. Marlene went silent after that. She stormed off to her room and slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the hallway wall. For the next few days, the house was ice cold. She wouldn't speak to me directly, only short texts, even though we were under the same roof. Evan kept close to me like a shadow. He started sleeping on my floor some nights, saying he felt safer in my room. Then last night, something happened that made my blood run cold. I came home from work and found the locks changed. My key didn't fit. Evan was inside. I could hear him yelling my name through the door. I pounded until finally, Marlene opened it, smirking. "Just testing a few things," she said casually, like it was no big deal. I told Mr. Lang immediately. He said if she tried it again, we'd go to court for an injunction. He also told me Aunt Rose was preparing to file paperwork as backup trustee. And honestly, for the first time in months, I feel like I'm not just fighting to survive. survive, I'm fighting to win. But the tension here is unbearable. Evan's grades are slipping. I'm constantly on edge, listening for the sound of footsteps, checking the locks twice before bed. I don't know how long this fight will drag on. I don't know what Marlene's next move will be, whether it's another realtor, another scheme, or even trying to drag us into court. But I know one thing with absolute certainty. Dad meant for us to have this home. He gave me this responsibility, and I will not let Marlene erase him from our lives. This house isn't just walls and a roof. It's our last connection to him. And no matter how ugly this gets, I'm not letting go.
You are not the AITA. You honored your father's clear intentions, protected your younger brother, and sought legal support rather than acting rashly. Marlene, on the other hand, chose manipulation, secrecy, and intimidation instead of empathy or honesty. Your role here isn't selfish, it's guardian. My suggestion? Keep everything documented. You're already doing well with that binder, and let the attorney handle every new escalation. Humorously speaking, Marlene trying to sell a house that legally isn't hers is like trying to auction off the Mona Lisa at a garage sale. It's not going to work, and it just makes her look ridiculous. Stay steady, keep Evan close, and remember, standing firm isn't clinging to the past, it's protecting the future your dad carefully set up for you both. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments.
AITA for canceling a special birthday plan because I was sick? My name is Laura. I turned 25 last week, and what should have been one of the happiest birthdays I've had in years turned into a heavy cloud that I'm still carrying with me. My boyfriend, Aaron, had been planning something for weeks. He knew how much I loved art, especially impressionist paintings. There was a special exhibit opening at the museum in the city, and I'd been talking about it ever since I first saw the posters. He made sure to get the day off work, and he kept telling me, "Don't worry about a thing, just enjoy yourself." And to be fair, he did go all out before my birthday. The entire week leading up to it, he was almost over the top attentive. He cooked me breakfast when he could. He drove me to work when it rained. He even went to the pharmacy one night to buy the exact tea I liked when I couldn't find it at the store. I knew he wanted my birthday to feel perfect, and I could tell he was proud of the effort he was putting in. But then came the actual day of our trip. I woke up and knew immediately something was wrong. My throat was raw, my head felt like it was stuffed with cotton, and every movement made me ache. I sat on the edge of the bed trying to will myself into pretending it wasn't as bad as it felt, but Aaron noticed. He asked, "You okay?" in this hopeful voice, like he was already trying to push away the possibility of bad news. I told him I wasn't feeling well. At first, he just frowned, then asked if maybe I could still try to rally. He reminded me, not angrily, but in a desperate tone, that we'd been waiting for this day for weeks. When I admitted I didn't think I could manage, his whole demeanor shifted. He went quiet. His shoulders slumped. He kept staring down into his coffee mug as if he was watching something collapse in front of him. After a long pause, he said, "I feel like everything I planned is falling apart." Those words stung. I wanted to tell him I wasn't trying to ruin anything, but I also didn't have the strength to argue. So the rest of the morning dragged on in silence. We sat at the table, sipping coffee, both of us trapped in our own thoughts. When he finally put his mug down and walked into the living room without saying anything else, I felt the sharp divide between us. The day went downhill from there. He spent most of it in the living room, scrolling on his phone, watching videos, and barely talking to me. I lay in bed, feeling my body ache and my mind spiral with guilt. Every time I heard him sigh, I felt like I'd let him down. Every time the house felt too quiet, I wondered if I should have forced myself to go, no matter how miserable it would have been. That evening, things boiled over. I had tried to lighten the mood by sending him a funny meme while lying in bed. He replied with just a thumbs up. When I asked if he was mad at me, he finally admitted, "I'm just disappointed. I moved everything around for this day, and now it feels wasted." I tried to explain again that I didn't choose to be sick, that I wanted to go just as much as he did. But he cut me off and said, "You don't understand, Laura. I barely get time off. I traded shifts, I covered extra hours. I did everything just so this one day would work. And now it's gone." That hurt. It made me feel like my being sick was a betrayal. I started crying and told him, "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I planned to get sick?" He softened a little when he saw me cry, but instead of apologizing, he just said, "I know you didn't plan it, but it still feels like all my effort didn't matter." We went back and forth for a while, both trying to make our points, but neither of us really listening. I kept saying I couldn't help being sick, and he kept saying he felt like his effort was wasted. It ended with him retreating back to the couch and me curling up in bed, feeling lonelier than I ever had with him before. Since then, the atmosphere has been tense. Even when he tries to act normal, like sending me a silly video or cracking a small joke, I can feel the weight behind it. I can feel that he's still carrying disappointment, and I'm carrying guilt. I keep replaying it in my head. Should I have pushed through the sickness? Should I have swallowed the pain and just gone, even if it meant standing in front of priceless paintings while barely able to breathe? Or was I right to listen to my body and stay home, even if it crushed the day he worked so hard to create? Because now, instead of remembering my 20th birthday as something warm and special, I'm left with the image of Aaron's slumped shoulders, the silence between us, and the gnawing feeling that I ruined everything without ever meaning to. It's been 3 days since that morning, and instead of things getting easier, the distance between Aaron and me seems to be widening. At first, I told myself he just needed some time, that he was disappointed in the moment but would move on. But the silence hasn't lifted. It's settled into our house like a fog neither of us knows how to clear. On the first day, I noticed how little he spoke at dinner. Normally, he asks me about my day, even about small things like what I ate for lunch or whether my boss was in a good mood. But that night, he just pushed his food around and gave short answers. I finally asked, "What's wrong?" He sighed and shrugged. "It's nothing. I just keep thinking about how much I gave up to plan that day." At first, I thought he meant time or energy, but then he admitted something that stopped me cold. He had actually traded multiple shifts and stayed late at work several times just to secure that one day off. He had been carrying that weight silently, never mentioning it until now. I didn't know what to say. I told him I hadn't realized the lengths he went to. He just nodded and said, "Yeah, I didn't tell you because I thought it would be worth it. Now I just feel like I was working for nothing." That sentence sank into me. Working for nothing. Later that night, when I was lying in bed, I got a text from him. He was only a few feet away in the living room, but instead of walking in, he chose to type, "I feel like I tried to give you something meaningful, but maybe I don't know how to make you happy anymore." I stared at those words until my eyes blurred. My chest tightened like a fist had closed around it. I didn't want him to think I didn't care. I wrote back, "I didn't want to ruin what you planned. I just wasn't strong enough to go." That doesn't mean it didn't matter to me. I watched the typing bubbles appear, then disappear. No reply ever came. The next morning, when I opened my laptop to check my email, I found a message from him. He doesn't usually email me. We mostly text or talk, so the choice already felt heavy. It was short, but it hit me harder than anything else so far. He wrote that he feels like he always carries the responsibility of making moments special, that when something falls apart, he's the only one left hurting. And then came the line that has been replaying in my head ever since. "I don't know if I'm expecting too much, or if you're expecting too little." Reading it, I felt a rush of shame, anger, and sadness all at once. Was he saying I don't put enough into us? Or that I don't care the way he does? When I tried to talk to him about it later, the conversation exploded. I told him his email felt unfair, that it painted me as someone who doesn't care, when in reality I had been sick and unable to move. He fired back that being sick wasn't my fault, but making no effort afterward was. He asked, "Why didn't you even try to reschedule? Why didn't you try to do something small, anything, to show that you cared as much as I did?" I snapped back that I was still recovering, that I couldn't just bounce out of bed and pretend like nothing happened. He shook his head and said, "See, that's the difference between us. When it comes to you, I'll stretch myself thin. When it comes to me, you give up the moment something gets hard." That broke me. I raised my voice for the first time in days and said, "That's not fair, Aaron. You're turning one bad day into proof that I don't love you, and that's not true." We went back and forth like that for what felt like hours, his voice tight with disappointment, mine raw with frustration. At one point he said, "I just want to feel like I matter as much to you as you matter to me." And the painful part is, I do love him. I do care. But right now, it feels like love isn't enough, because instead of leaning on each other, we're throwing our hurt back and forth like weapons neither of us knows how to drop. By the end of the fight, I was crying so hard I could barely breathe. He looked exhausted, too. We didn't resolve anything. He just went quiet again, and eventually fell asleep on the couch, leaving me in the bedroom with my thoughts. So here I am, 3 days later, wondering what's left between us. His disappointment still lingers in every word, every silence, and my guilt grows heavier every time I replay the argument. I'm torn. Do I push harder, plan something big to prove to him that I care as much as he does? Or do I hold my ground, remind him I'm not responsible for every single disappointment, that love isn't a scoreboard of who gives more? Because right now, it feels like we're standing in the same room but drifting further apart with every passing hour. And I don't know how to close the space between us anymore.
You are not the Aita. Getting sick on your birthday isn't sabotage, it's human. Aaron's effort deserves acknowledgement, but his reaction veered into guilt tripping, which isn't fair. Your responsibility is honesty, not dragging yourself to an exhibit half-dead just to validate his sacrifices. My insight? He equates effort with proof of love, while you see health as non-negotiable. That mismatch creates the tension, not your flu. Humor angle: forcing yourself to admire impressionist paintings while feverish would have been less Monet and more Monet. Suggestion: stop framing this as ruined versus wasted. Frame it as postponed. Offer to reschedule when you're well, even if scaled down. Picnic, smaller gallery, whatever shows thought. That signals care without self-destruction. If he still views one sick day as betrayal, then the bigger question isn't birthdays, it's balance. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out AITA for choosing family trip over friend's wedding. Click here to watch it now.